All right, it's time for Media Watch, and Haxi Myers-Belkin is with us in the studio. It's good to say Haxi.
Hi.
We're going to start with our top story tonight, the French president's three-day trip to Africa. He was talking to the young people, the students today at Ouagadougou University in Burkina Faso. You've been looking at some of the internet reaction to that visit and those comments.
Absolutely, and let's begin with a Twitter account that says its mission is to galvanise African young people into caring about politics. And he tweeted this before Macron arrived in Ouagadougou. You can see here, for Macron's visit to Ouagadougou, students are symbolically de-baptising Avenue Charles de Gaulle and instead calling it Avenue Thomas Sankara, of course, the assassinated former president of Burkina Faso. Now, this stunt is the work of a student group that had, unsurprisingly, vowed to boycott Macron's trip. They've even written, as you can see there, Boulevard Thomas Sankara on the boulevard itself. Now, this tweet links to an interview with one of the leaders of that group. He says that his intention, this is quite strong stuff, was to end the incestuous relationship between France and Africa and to decolonise the Burkinabe mentality, and that the best way to do that was to try to decolonise the urban environment. And that's probably quite a good moment here to have a little look at just who Thomas Sankara is. He is a former Burkinabe president and, most importantly, a towering force in the anti-colonial Pan-African movement. He came to power in a coup in 1983, vowing mainly to rid the country of French economic and political influence. Now, he was the man, it's worth mentioning, responsible for changing the name of the country from French Upper Volta to Burkina Faso, which means the land of the upright man. He was against foreign aid, he advocated a sweeping debt reduction, and first and foremost championed African self-reliance. And unsurprisingly, he was a thorn in the side of the Burkinabe middle class, but also in the side of France. And that's why it's fair to say, really, that since his assassination in '87, many Burkinabe have been convinced that France was in some way implicated in his death. And that's, of course, the context in which we should understand this tweet. Welcome to the country of Thomas Sankara, we read here, tweeted by a Twitter user, who then links to an article that speaks of the fact that, or of the allegations that Macron's convoy on his way to the university where he gave his speech was pelted with rocks. Now, that is something that Macron's delegation is denying. But according to this Twitter user, you can see his picture there. The convoy was attacked as it was en route to the university. And then we're not really reading the tweet of an impartial journalist here by any means. He says, down with imperialism, down with neo-colonialism. And these images do seem to show rocks being thrown at a convoy. We cannot verify them 100%, although I can tell you that they haven't been taken from anywhere else on the internet, which gives us reason to believe that these are genuine images. Now, the whole purpose of this trip for Macron was to offer a new vision, of course, of France's relationship with the continent. And during his speech earlier today, he repeatedly said that he was a member of a generation that has never known colonial Africa. He says he's of a generation that holds the victory of Nelson Mandela against apartheid as one of their most dear political memories. He says that's the history of our generation. But one Twitter user isn't so convinced. She quotes Macron there, quotes him saying that I'm from a generation where you can't tell Africa what to do. And underneath, she juxtaposes that with a map that shows where French forces are stationed across Africa and the Middle East. The implication being, of course, that he may not have personally known a period of active colonialism in Africa, but he definitely does know its legacy. Now, this editorial on the Burkinabe news site, Wakat Sera, also reflects that tension. They call Macron a victim of the original sin committed by his colonial ancestors, and it acknowledges that while some people do see this visit as a simple perpetuation of colonialism, others are actually very happy to see him try to kickstart this new era of Franco-African relations, and very much welcome the fact that he's decided to declassify all of those files on the assassination of Sankara. Now, there's an interview with one of the editors of that website in the Courrier International. In it, the journalist is asked if Macron really is the man to bring an end to this pernicious policy of France-Afrique, to which the journalist responds, yeah, Macron has all the goodwill in the world, but he does risk being taken hostage by the system of France-Afrique, namely the fact that the established political, economic and cultural networks established by France-Afrique are very much alive and kicking today, and it's very much in their interest to maintain the status quo. Now that feeds rather nicely into my last story here, another controversy to come out of Macron's visit. What you see here is a communique from the Burkina Ministry of Education. It's essentially announcing that all schools, both private and public, would be closed for business on Monday and Tuesday in honour of Macron's visit. Now, this Twitter user above, he asks, have we ever seen this in France? Has France ever declared that schools should be closed because a foreign leader's visiting?
Good
an
point.
African leader at that. So what this really hints at is just how complex efforts to change France's relationship with Africa are. It's not just France that needs to change its potentially paternalistic approach, but France's former colonies also need to maybe think about how they treat France.
Absolutely. Very interesting, Haxi. Thank you very much indeed. Haxi Myers-Belkin there.